Currently, we are helping more than 200 companies measuring their carbon emissions. If the companies doesn't comply as per the requirement by EU regulations, they might lose the business. Simple statement is if you do more emissions, you would be taxed more. Because short term it is compliance, but long term it is going to cost them the business that they are doing with Europe.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Carbon Age podcast by Cleancarbon.ai, which focuses on everything decoding about CBAM, which stands for Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. I'm Shubham Thakur, climate communications expert, and I've been a journalist for about 4 to 5 years. I've worked with Times Now, India Today, Logical Indian. I've interviewed multiple personalities from ministers to climate activists like Dia Mirza and many other people. And then I made a transition to this sector, which is climate and sustainability, which is booming and is actually very fascinating. So I've been in this sector for about 1.5 years. And truth be told, I've enjoyed it every minute, working, understanding different nuances and how things are done in terms of climate reporting, sustainability reporting, and accounting. On today's podcast, I have with me very special guest who is Mr. Nilesh Bhattad, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining this podcast. So, Nilesh Bhattad, sir, has been working in this space for about 10 years and he is well respected, well known CBAM expert in India and also globally. He has been helping different multiple companies, MNCs, medium and small enterprises, large scale companies in India and abroad in CBAM compliance through his experience. In this podcast, we will understand through his experience how CBAM compliance reporting challenge can be converted into a competitive edge and competitive advantage for different companies, particularly for companies in India and iron and steel companies. So, thank you so much, sir, for joining this podcast once again. Please tell me a bit about Clean Carbon AI. How did it start? What was the main idea or the inspiration behind launching this platform that you have been leading for some time now?
Sure. I really appreciate this opportunity, Shubhamji. It is really, a pleasure where I'll be able to speak about how CBAM is shaping the global trade and how it is become a very important tool in the journey of removing or reducing the carbon emission across the world. So now coming about Cleancarbon.ai. Before that, maybe let me briefly talk about what was my journey so far, and then how uh, we decided to start Clean Carbon, and what was the mission, what are uh, like our ambitions, what we are looking for. So uh, I am a software engineer, and I worked with some Japanese companies, some US companies. Like I was in US working for Microsoft for some time, and then in India I worked with Infosys for some time. And in 2012, we started IT services business. And while working into that IT services business, in 2017, we got the opportunity to work with one of the very big Canadian oil and gas company in this space, this sustainability space. And we started measuring their carbon emissions in very big oil field. It was like 5,000 acres field with thousands of equipment. It was quite a task for us. And when actually we started working on it, I got drawn to this space entirely. And I always had something in my mind that I would like to contribute in some way, or whatever I could do in terms of environment. Okay, and I think this first work that we did it gave me the opportunity to get into this space. After working with this company, there were more than 50 plus companies in North American and Canadian region that we worked for measuring their carbon emissions. Uh, and there were taxes also in Canada, so we kind of understood how entire space works, how actually it is harmful, which is happening, this carbon emissions, or it is all gases. When we say carbon, it is just not carbon, but any harmful emissions which are happening due to industrialization. So that way, in 2017 onwards, I dedicated my time into this space. And till 2021, we worked with this uh, uh, Canadian company which was supporting this clients in Canada. And in 2022, we thought that maybe in India we should start this work, and that's how Cleancarbon.ai started. And the mission was very clear, to work with the companies to reduce the carbon emissions. And when CBAM got introduced, since we had know-how of working with this North American companies, we also had built the platform. We were very early into this space of the CBAM, and currently we are helping more than 200 companies in measuring their carbon emissions and generating CBAM reports for them. Like more than 1,000 reports have been generated by Clean Carbon so far, and we have delivered those reports. So yeah, this is a brief journey about me and how Clean Carbon .ai started. And now, I mean, we see it's growing with leaps and bounds.
That's really interesting. And I've been writing on multiple climate policies, even CBAM and carbon market, for different publications like New Indian Express, ABP Live, and multiple other global and Indian publications. Now, through my experience, I've understood that the Indian sustainability sector, and even globally, if you see, most of the platforms are focusing on multiple compliances: ESG, carbon accounting, scope 1, 2, 3, CBAM, multiple compliances or regulatory methods. What was the idea behind just focusing on CBAM compliance and not touching other areas as of now? Do you think it's because of the complexities involved with this entire carbon pricing mechanism itself? Why are you focusing just on CBAM compliance and not others? I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there must have been some thought from your team and from yourself. Let's just focus on the CBAM compliance. How do you, why did you do that?
So as you rightly pointed out, there are like more than 50 plus sustainability regulations are there, and maybe every country is bringing its own regulations. uh, GHG is one of them, GRI. Then in India we have BRSR and CDPs and SDGs and many more. Okay, so this is very a complex web which is getting into this space. But what we uh, identified was that uh, in all this space, CBAM was the most critical one, especially for the companies which are exporting to Europe. Because first, it is not optional; it's a mandatory compliance. And if the companies doesn't comply as per the requirement by EU regulations, they might lose the business. Okay, and the impact would be very high. And that's why we decided that we'll help these companies first. And the second thought was that we want to get very deep into it. Okay, we want to understand very small nuances, because when we work with small or medium or large companies, every company has its own process, its own production challenges, its own mechanism of doing the compliance. And that's why we thought that just not compliance, but we'll do complete hand-holding. And that's where then it become very important that we become super specialist. So that's why the mission or the goal was very clear that we will not get into any other area of sustainability, but stick to CBAM and be the world leader. So the vision was very clear that become the best company in the world uh, in CBAM. Okay, so that's why we decided to get into this specific niche in this sustainability space.
CBAM is a very complicated policy actually, and although it is only in Europe, from European Union country, but you know that UK and other countries are also planning to come up with this. If I could ask you in layman's term, what is CBAM and who is going to be impacted the most in terms of companies and the sectors, and which geographical location, if I ask you globally?
See, first let's understand what is CBAM. So it stands for Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So what does this mean? Okay, so this is basically a policy which has been introduced by European Union that if you are exporting into certain sectors, so we talk about iron and steel, then cement, uh, electricity, uh, or energy, then we have hydrogen and chemicals. So these are few sectors where these are most carbon intensive sectors. And if you're exporting to Europe in any of these sectors, then this regulation or the policy is mandatory for you to comply. And like what exactly we are doing is measuring how much carbon emission that you are doing in your production process, and then you submit the quarterly report to your buyer in Europe, and based on that there will be further taxes that maybe we'll discuss in detail. But this is on high level what CBAM is. Okay, now you talked about who is impacted. Okay, so see, every company in the world is impacted if they are exporting to Europe. Okay, so if be it a Indian company or American company or Chinese company or any uh, country that you operate in, if you are into this sector and if you are exporting to Europe directly or indirectly. So when I say directly, of course you are directly have a buyer in Europe, and indirectly is you are maybe, for example, an Indian company selling your product to any other Indian company, but that product is further going to Europe, then also you have to comply. Okay, so geographically speaking, entire world is now is under CBAM. Now you talked about like a lot of other countries, like UK is now bringing the CBAM, or there is a talk about Canada or Australia or other Western economies bringing their own CBAM. So yes, so UK have already declared in 27 their CBAM they are introducing. And similarly, I see that other economies will follow the suit, and they will introduce their own CBAM mechanism, is what I see.
So when CBAM was introduced, a lot of people in the industry and globally also, and in India, had a feeling that it is a temporary phenomenon. It's going to come and go. But now, as you said, that different countries are also coming up with their own similar mechanism, CBAM-like structures. And under the CBAM, also the European Union Commission has said that all the sectors under the EU ETS, European Union Emissions Trading System, will be covered by CBAM gradually beyond 6 sectors that are under the CBAM. When do you think more sectors could be added to CBAM? Because that will be like a very critical thing and not just impact iron and steel, aluminium, fertilizers, and other sectors which are highly carbon intensive. Do you think it's a myth in the market? And what do you think about this? Like more products are going to be covered soon by the CBAM?
So there is no official communication.
Yeah.
So I can't say that they are going to cover, but there are a lot of talks, or maybe policymakers are discussing that these are not only sectors which are contributing to emissions. There are other sectors which are covered under EU ETS, and they are also contributing to this emissions. And in terms like the goal is to reduce global warming and to achieve net zero. So I feel it is a natural progression. Why they selected this sectors initially was these were the major sectors which are contributing more, but there are other sectors which is already covered under EU ETS, and they're also contributing to this emissions. And maybe down the line, once this six sectors that they have identified settles, once entire process is settled, then slowly you might bring up other sectors as well.
So, in your experience, how do you think CBAM reporting is reshaping not just global trade patterns, but selection of suppliers, selection of customers, and impacting companies' business performances, revenues, particularly for companies in India?
This particularly links to the tax part.
Yeah.
Okay. So the simple statement is if you do more emissions, you would be taxed more. And if you would be taxed more, your product would be more costlier. So basically, country like India, we are dependent on energy source which is coming from coal. Okay, which is a majority of the contribution. And the emission level, the average emission level, if you consider sector like steel, it is 2.6 or 2.7 average emissions, which is quite high compared to the global benchmarks. So if country like South Korea, which is at very lower band, then country like Japan, which is also at lower band. Even China is now coming up with a lot of innovations in their production process, and they are also reducing their emissions considerably. So in that context, Indian products will become costlier for European market, and they will lose the edge. So that's why it is very critical for companies in India to look at it very seriously, the impact. Because short term it is compliance, but long term it is going to cost them the business that they are doing with Europe. Okay, so that's how I see it.
So you've been talking about carbon tax. Although it's not so clear who is going to pay the tax, obviously for the inaccurate report that you submit and higher the level of emissions, you will be paying higher amount of money to the European Union Commission. But who is going to be actually bearing the cost of the carbon tax, and how is it going to be calculated? Is it going to be the importer? Is it going to be the supplier? Or at the end of the day, the consumer who is buying the product?
Well, see, this is very interesting question. First, let us understand the mechanism of the tax, how the tax work. Then will come who is going to bear that cost. Okay, so when we calculate tax, there are three factors majorly. One is your emission number. We call it as a specific embedded emission.
Yeah.
Multiplied by how much ton you are exporting, multiplied by carbon rate. Okay, so maybe currently carbon rate is around 85-90 euros. And if, for example, you are exporting 1,000 tons in a year, so multiply that with the 1,000 tons, and then multiply that with the specific embedded emission values, which would be basically how much more emission that you are doing above the benchmark. Okay, so with that, if you see overall impact would be around 8 to 12%, which is quite high. Specifically, I'm talking about Indian companies which are exporting to Europe. So 8 to 12% is it is going to eat up their entire margins, because companies operate around 15-20% of these margins, and if you're paying only 8 to 12% in taxes, it is going to impact your entire bottom line. Okay, and now the second question is who is going to pay?
Yeah.
Okay, so currently the regulation uh, puts the responsibility on the importer. Okay, because they can't get hold of all the exporters across the world. So that's why they are telling the importers in their specific countries that you pay this tax. But importers are naturally are not going to pay from their pockets.
Yeah.
Reason being that this tax is for the emissions which are done by maybe like company in India. Okay, so they're just paying on behalf of that company. So that is the general understanding that I see. Of course, there will be a lot of negotiations, and who is going to bear that cost? It will it be shared? So that is a part of like party to party discussion. But on high level, if you see logically, it is the company which is doing the emission naturally have to pay the tax for it, so that that company can work in reducing that emission, so that its cost can come down. The tax cost of the emission which it is causing can come down. Uh, so this is one angle of it, and now, but still it is going to increase the prices,
Yeah.
and so finally, also the end consumer will have to bear some portion of it somehow. But yeah, I mean, this is how current scenario is that the company which is doing the emission need to pay the tax.
So basically, it's going to inflate the prices for the consumers.
Well, ideally, I mean, that could be the natural thing, because somebody has to finally pay for it.
Mhm. So you touched upon the rate of the carbon, I mean carbon tax basically. So who is going to decide that? Because I gather from my research and understanding that it's going to change from time to time. The compliance says that it will be decided as per weekly you auction average price.
Correct.
So if that increases, the tax and the financial implications also increases on you.
Yes,
Okay.
it is like that only. So two components are fixed. One is your emission numbers. Of course, that will also change, like based on how much you work to reduce that. And second is your how much ton you are exporting. That is fixed. The price, the price is it will change. So currently it is 85 to 90 euros, but depending on the EU ETS systems and the weekly rates, it will change. It will vary, and it is projected that it will soon cross 100 euros, and it would be in the range of 100 to 150 euros in next 3 to 4 years. So that is the range that we see based on various data points that we are getting from various sources.
So that's going to be massive impact on the suppliers across the globe, even on the importers.
It will be huge impact.
So in your experience, sir, so far in terms of CBAM compliances, and you have dealt with multiple companies, more than 500 companies, and not just reporting, you talk to them also, interact with CEO level, C-suite, all kinds of people, small, medium. What has been, or what have been, rather, I should say, the biggest challenges by suppliers and importers when it comes to CBAM reporting?
I mean, the challenges, let us talk about the importer side first. So, importer, it is very challenging for them to get the data from various suppliers, because like some of the companies will have 10, 20, 50, maybe 100 suppliers across the world. Okay, and then they will also have in turn more suppliers. So uh, basically what CBAM tells is that your entire supply chain has to be covered. So this becomes very complex for any importer to get the data from their tier 1 suppliers, and then that tier 1 supplier has to get the data from tier 2 and tier 3 and so on. Okay, so that becomes a very complex web for this importers in Europe. Now, coming to the supplier side or maybe exporter side, I would say somebody in India. So for that company, first challenge is to know how, because that regulation is complex. That expertise is not available in the market easily. To build that expertise in house is also not very cost effective proposition for any small or medium company or even big company. And fourth important thing is even to do that, to get that data, the correct data points, it is a complex because there are very specific uh, uh, points which has been written in the policy that how do you calculate what should be the data points that needs to be considered. So that becomes challenging for somebody in India, which is an exporter, direct exporter. Now, second level of challenge for him is to get the data from his supplier. So, like, consider a company which is a big exporter, maybe somebody who's exporting tractors. Okay, and that company will have around 300, 400 suppliers. So first, that company need to calculate its own emissions in their own factories, and then now to get the data from these 300, 400 different suppliers, which will have different skill set, different capacities. They would not know. Some companies will be very small, like a traders. Some companies will be like maybe 10 people company, a small workshop where they are getting some things done. Some could be giants. So they will have their own challenges to share their data. So these are the complexities uh, which are there uh, from the supplier side or the exporter side. And there is no easy solution which is available in the market. And that's where, I mean, we are trying to contribute to create a platform which can make it easy for all the stakeholders in the system, be it importer, be it big OEM, or be it small supplier. Everybody in the ecosystem should be able to uh, mm, calculate their emissions easily, should be able to report it easily. And I think we are doing a good job so far, which is what I feel as far as Cleancarbon.ai is concerned.
So, through my research, I have understood that clean carbon is solving one of the most challenging issues, which is streamlining the collection of data from vendors who are not
Correct.
directly impacted by CBAM but indirectly. Through any case study or any real practical example, can you help me understand how do you solve this pressing challenge? Because there's a company and that falls under the category of CBAM reporting. Now, data collection, that company is responsible for its data collection embedded emissions under its units and plants. How does it ensure that the data from the vendors and the local suppliers reach to him so that he can submit them under the compliance? Because the vendor will say, hey, I do not fall under the CBAM reporting. How are you solving that challenge? Can you just elaborate with a case study?
There are many case studies, but let me talk to one of the biggest company which we work with. Okay, so now this particular company, they had around 40,000 products. Okay, 40,000 products and 700 plus suppliers, and those suppliers were from multiple countries. So few hundred suppliers from India, few hundred from China. Then they were also importing from Vietnam and other geographies. So for them, it was such a huge work to even uh, get the data from so many suppliers. Then they have their internal systems, their bill of material systems to understand what are the materials, which are the suppliers which are responsible, then in a particular shipment in that particular quarter, which were the suppliers which were used. So it was a very big challenge for them and for us also to solve. And that's where we got very deeper into that. We we already had the platform which was built to handle the normal processes or even the suppliers, which could be maybe up to 200, 300 suppliers. And we wanted a data in certain formats. But now here, this company had their own structures, own formats.
Yeah.
They had multiple softwares. So basically what we did was we customized this platform which was built for most of the companies for them, where we actually started taking bill of materials as input. and then we started processing automated CBAM report for all their parts. Okay, so like in last quarter, they had more than 6,000 parts which were exported. So we had to do 6,000 reports for them in that quarter. And the other part was to get the data from these 700 suppliers. So we automated that entire process so that we can enter the data for all those suppliers, their names, their email IDs, and then all the suppliers will get the access of the platform. They can submit the data for the products which is being supplied to this particular company which we were working on. And that's how we collected the data of all those 700 suppliers through this entire software automation that has been built for them. And then the next step was to automate this invoices with the data which is coming from all the suppliers. Okay, and we automated that piece as well with the billing part in their process. And I think it was quite a huge challenge, and we were able to deliver this entire solution and more than 10,000 reports for this particular customer in that quarter that we worked upon. So yeah, this was very interesting.
So, truth be told, I have worked with other sustainability platforms also, but I don't think anyone else is solving this challenge of collecting data from the suppliers also. Now, you have solved this challenge as you demonstrated through the example, but how do you ensure that the data that has been put by the third party vendor is correct and that can be audited in the future? Because CBAM mandates that. How do you ensure that the data is correct?
Right. No, yeah, this is very important point that the data accuracy is critical, especially small companies which are not aware about the CBAM. How do they enter the data first? So we do complete handholding for them. It is not like we just give the platform and you enter the data. We train them. If required, we train them on video calls, phone calls. We do visit if needed, and make sure that they understand what is the data points that are needed. Okay, so that is first. Now second thing is whatever data that they are entering, we get the required bills. So for example, if they need to enter the raw material data, so we ask them to upload. So we have made the provision in the platform itself that they have to upload the bills for the raw materials which they are using. They need to upload their material test certificates. They need to upload the electricity bill for that quarter where we are actually generating the CBAM report. So all the required data points which they are submitting, we get the corresponding data which can be verified and authenticated, and then only we further proceed for the report generation. Okay, so this step is very critical, considering that audit might happen from the next year, because taxes are going to start, and definitely you is going to audit your numbers. And with all these provisions that we have made in the platform, okay, that becomes very easy for us to make sure that the data is correct, it is auditable, and it is traceable.
So you have created an ecosystem of not just CBAM reporting for the supplier, but for the vendors also. And I think you are also maintaining trail because you need evidence in terms of ensuring the data auditability and credibility, because that is going to play immense role in CBAM compliance, accurate CBAM compliance. Now there have been trend that importers are also going for suppliers that have clean production methods. Even suppliers here in India are choosing vendors that are serious about sustainability reporting, because it's not just CBAM, but globally, if you see, the sustainability sector itself is changing, and there are multiple compliances. And investors, shareholders, even consumers are preferring any brand, any company that are climate conscious. How serious is this challenge, or rather, I should say, a shift in terms of CBAM compliance? Are importers actually going for suppliers that have cleaner production methods? Here in India, also, are suppliers choosing and changing the methods of choosing the vendors, on the basis of carbon emission record that the vendor has.
Shubhamji, that is the whole point, right? Whenever any company which is supplying to you, if they are doing more emissions, they are not greener, it is going to cost you more.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a business, it is very natural for me to see that which is the vendor or which is the company which can supply the same quality product, which is greener, which will cost me less. So now, how do they can do that? Like for example, the customers that we are helping, we are now getting the data. Okay, we are doing the analysis, the deep analysis for all the data that we are gathering from all the suppliers which are supplying. And now we have a very deep down analysis of each supplier on their emissions. So we know that, okay, for example, supplier A, which is supplying fasteners, his emissions numbers are, for example, say 2.8. Supplier B, which is also supplying the fasteners, his emissions numbers are 2.4. And any other supplier. So we have very clear-cut mapping of the data on the dashboard. And then basically, as a company, I can drill down what are the methods which are being followed by all these suppliers. Can I talk to them and can work out with them that can they work with the alternative sources to reduce their emissions, which will in turn help me to reduce my cost of that product. Okay. So I think this shift is happening, and it is going to happen quite fast once the real numbers of the tax is going to pinch in, and it is going to give the impact on my bottom line. I will be very, very conscious to select the suppliers based on how greener they are, how much product that they are giving to me are into this green zone category.
Tax has not started yet. I mean, they're going to start. When do you think this tax is going to be applicable for importers and the suppliers under the CBAM? By when they could see financial impacts, like in real time, on their operations and the company?
Well, I think the documentation clearly specifies that the tax calculation is going to start from January 26.
Okay, just in the next few months.
Yes, in next few months. Now with the Omnibus in picture, they have given the relaxation that this tax which is applicable to them can be paid in 27. Okay, but the calculation remains, the tax remains. Only thing is that you have a option to pay it later. So that's how it is. So a lot of people also have some confusion about Omnibus package, and they believe that it has weakened CBAM itself, which I personally don't think. It's just some more time for businesses to adapt to CBAM and fall in that ecosystem or create the facilities, infrastructure to be able to completely comply with CBAM. What do you think about it? What are your views on the Omnibus package? Is it just giving suppliers and the importers more time, or do you think it's actually weakened? Well, there are two perspectives or two angles to look at it. One is the importer angle, or the European, if you are a European company which is importing from maybe across the world in these sectors. So from their point of view, they have reduced the like 90% of the companies for the compliance. So how exactly it is impacted? That, for example, if you are importing less than 50 ton in Europe, then you don't have to comply, because the major contribution or the major emissions are the big 10% importers where they need to comply. So this is the importer angle, which I think it doesn't weaken it, but it's kind of a make it simpler, that not every small company which is importing maybe less than maybe a few tons, they need to comply. Okay. And from the suppliers, from the exporter angle, nothing is changed. So if you see from India, from Indian point of view, you are exporting maybe 10 ton only, which is less than 50 ton, but your importer is importing more than 50 ton uh, from maybe multiple suppliers. So for example, he's taking 10 tons from you, maybe 20 ton from somebody else,
Yeah.
50 ton from somebody else. So for him, the import is more than 50 ton, and that's why he's going to ask you the CBAM. So even if your export is only 10 ton or 5 ton annually, still you are under the compliance, and you have to make sure that you actually measure your emissions and report them.
Okay. And under this 50 ton, also under the omnibus package that you have explained, sir, is it temporary phenomenon or it's going to be like this only under the evolving CBAM landscape, if I could ask you?
Well, I mean, there is no official documentation or official comments from the policymakers that whether it's a temporary or they are going to extend it. So, I mean, I think time will tell once this is settling, and once it settles, once they start understanding how the entire mechanism is working. Based on that, they might decide, but there is no official communication or documentation which says that whether it's a temporary or long term.
India specific challenges of the CBAM. We do not have robust reporting infrastructure. We lack systems for data collection and then again data accuracy. How do you think, in your experience, we can solve this challenge with the help of technology, particularly for CBAM?
Right. Of course, technology is going to play very important role in this, because if you start doing it manually, if you want to get the data manually, then generate the report manually, it is so complex that basically it will take a lot of your time, expertise, cost. So, like what Clean Carbon does is automate this entire process and make it very easy to get the operations data. We validate and verify that operations data using software, and again generate the report using the software platform, and again validate and verify that report. Currently, we are doing that verification and validation manually, but with the help of AI, we'll do that validation and verification also with the software. Okay, so that is how it is going to reduce the cost of actually implementing that compliance, and making sure that that compliance reaches to all the impacted parties. So specifically, we have 20,000 plus companies in steel sector. We have 8,000 plus companies in aluminium sector, and these companies would definitely need some technology to make their job and life easier.
So, with the help of dashboard or your software, Clean Carbon AI, are you or will you be able to establish the financial implications of late or inaccurate or no CBAM reporting by any company in India?
Well, see, of course. So with the software and the dashboard that we provide to their management, we can project for next 3 years or next 5 years how much tax they need to pay in terms of the emissions that they are doing.
Okay.
Okay, so we consider what are the current production levels, how much production that they are going to planning to increase in next few years, how much export they might increase in Europe. So with all these parameters into consideration, we can project that for next 3 years or next 5 years, this is the tax outflow that might happen with the current set of the suppliers and the process that they follow. And in the software, we also provide them a mechanism where if they reduce certain emissions, how their tax outflow is going to get reduced. Okay, so in exact financial numbers, we can show them. It is kind of, you can consider it as a simulation before implementing any changes or before making any changes in their supply base or any supplier or in their production process. Uh, if they, for example, let us take example, if for example from two-stroke engine that they are using in one of their process, if they change it to four-stroke engine, how exactly the emission is going to get reduced, and then how exactly it is going to impact their tax number. So this is one example. It could be like hundreds of other things which is possible, number one. Number two, with huge data that we are gathering and getting, we are putting the AI algorithms on that data. And this AI algorithm will give the recommendations that what are the changes. It could be very practical and small changes that they can do in their process, and then how exactly it is going to impact in the real numbers.
The economy, the
Yes.
economic impact.
Yes, the economic impact on them, on their financials.
Okay. If I were to ask you, what could be done to ensure that the company or the supplier, particularly suppliers, and I will not bring importers here, although it affects them, to ensure that they continue to not just maintain the competitive edge in the European market, but also expand their business? Is it early CBAM reporting? Is it accurate CBAM reporting? Or is it maintaining data accuracy? What is that one critical factor that they can achieve three objectives: accurate reporting, maintaining the competitive advantage, going beyond that, generating profitability, and expanding in the European Union market?
Well, it's all. So it's all. So like rather, I say people should not look it as a compliance burden, but rather they should look this as a opportunity to market their product. uh, Naturally, of course, they have to work on their CBAM. So CBAM, when we say CBAM, it's basically measuring how much emissions that they are doing, because you need to know first how much emissions that are happening, then work on reducing those emissions. And once you are good in that, once you achieve that, you can market it. You can say that, okay, your products are green. You can charge maybe slightly more premium to it. And of course, you can use this as a marketing tool or a marketing message to all your buyers in Europe or maybe other countries as well, because every Western economy or any other economy for that matter, they're looking for the suppliers which are supplying the product at competitive cost and which are sustainable products, which are green products. And I think the companies which are early into it, which will act early to solve this challenge, and then they can use this to expand their business more faster and more efficiently in the other geographies.
Am I right in saying that early starters in CBAM reporting can expand the business and revenue, in the sense that here's a scenario? So there are two suppliers, and the one supplier is not so serious about CBAM reporting, it's going to lose the business in the European Union market, lose money. And the other is serious and it has started CBAM reporting early, at the earliest. Starting early is going to give you a lot of advantages, like detecting issues, fixing challenges, because there are going to be issues that can be fixed and solved at the earliest before it actually starts killing your economy itself. Have you come across any such instances, or is there a feeling prevalent in the market on these lines?
Yes, I mean, there are quite a few cases that I saw where, I mean, we had one customer which was supplying some iron bars to their Italian buyer. Okay, and it was a business which they were doing for many years, and suddenly when they asked that now we need the CBAM report, they were not ready. They were absolutely didn't had any clue, and they were on the verge of losing that order. Okay, and I mean, luckily we got connected. We met in one of the conference, and we happened to talk about it, and then we quickly worked understanding their production process and what are the emissions that they are doing, and we quickly created the CBAM report for them in less than a week, and they were able to submit that CBAM report, and then they were able to actually fulfill that order. But there are few which I saw that their customer was asking the CBAM report, but they saw that maybe it is a temporary phenomena, and they lost to that order to some other suppliers which were actually compliant. So I saw many cases like that for the companies which were not able to actually take it seriously and do it. They lost the orders, and now after that they came back that okay, now I think we should do it, and I've started working on it.
So that means that would also have created new market opportunities for companies that are doing CBAM reporting on time, as you said. Okay. And if I may ask, what is the category of companies and factories or customers that it is impacting? Is it small scale industries or is it like big players in the market? What are the size?
So see, it is impacting to every company. Of course, in that steel and aluminum sector, uh, be it a very small company with maybe 5 people or 10 people and small workshop, or be it a very large organization with maybe like thousands of employees.
Mhm.
Okay, because if you are exporting to Europe, even if you are a small exporter, but if your export is even like few tons, uh, but your buyer in Europe would need that data to get the material from you. Okay, he must comply, he must submit that report, or you won't be able to do that. And secondly, even if you are not exporting to Europe, even if you are actually supplying to your local buyer in your own country, but if that material is further going to Europe, you are impacted. So it is not like a small or big. I think any company in this sector is impacted, and they have to be ready sooner or later.
Okay, so CBAM is not just climate reporting, but it's going to unlock multiple business opportunities and help you maintain competitive edge. But the key is to start early. I hope you have been able to know and understand how CBAM impacts you and why it is important to start early and not just start, because it's not a temporary phenomenon. There are going to be more CBAM like structure, as pointed out, in UK, Canada, Australia, and they're going to be more rigorous than the present ones. Even India is considering to have a structure like it, nothing official as of now. So that's how CBAM is going to reshape global trade in terms of supplier selections, business opportunities, hampering some prospects, and also giving competitive advantage, as I'm telling you again and again, to the early starters. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and highlighting all the challenges and how to fix CBAM reporting challenge and convert it into a business opportunity and not just report for the sake of compliances under the European market. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Shubhamji, for this opportunity. And my last concluding thought for everybody. Look at the bigger objective or bigger goal, which is reducing the overall emissions and make this earth more livable for us and our future generations. So I understand this is like one tool or one mechanism or one policy we are talking about, uh, but ideally we everybody can contribute in doing our part, so that there is a greener earth or a more better place for all our future generation uh, in long run.
Exactly. So it's not just one person who's going to play the role, but all of us. And also, as they say, climate action requires collective action and collective effort, and not just one person doing that. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching this podcast. I hope you have gained a lot of information and we have been able to add up to your knowledge base. Thank you so much.
Thank you.